Hello friends, welcome to a lecture on water pollution. The main objectives of today's lecture are to understand the concept of water pollution, from sewage to global warming, to study the many causes of water pollution, what are the effects of water pollution, to study the transport and measurement of water pollution, to study various processes for controlling polluted water, and how can we keep the waters clean and laws and conventions protecting them. This topic has been divided into two parts, that's part 1 and part 2. In part 1, we will study water pollution, how it is caused and what are its effects. First of all, let me give you a brief introduction about water pollution. Water pollution is any chemical, biological or physical change in water quality that has a harmful effect on living organisms or makes water unsuitable for desired usage. Worldwide, nearly 2 billion people drink contaminated water that could be harmful to their health. Water pollution occurs when pollutants are directly or indirectly discharged into water bodies without adequate treatment to remove harmful compounds. Water pollution is a major global problem which requires ongoing evaluation and revision of water resource policy at all levels. It has been suggested that water pollution is the leading worldwide cause of deaths and diseases, and that it accounts for deaths of more than 14,000 people daily. An estimated people of 580 in India die of water pollution related sickness every day. In addition to the acute problems of water pollution in developing countries, developed countries continue to struggle with pollution problems as well. In the most recent national report on water quality in the United States, 45% of assessed stream miles, 47% of assessed lake acres, and 32% of assessed bays and estuarine square miles are classified as polluted. India is recognized as having major problems with water pollution, predominantly due to untreated sewerage. Rivers such as Ganga, Yamuna, Gomati, etc., all flowing through highly populated areas are polluted, especially coliform polluted. At the global level, estimates suggest that nearly 1.5 billion people lack safe drinking water, and at least 5 million deaths per year can be attributed to waterborne diseases. With over 70% of planet covered by oceans, people have long acted as if these very bodies of water could serve as a limitless dumping ground for wastes. Now we will study sources of water pollution. Two types of pollutants exist based on their origin, that is point source and non-point source. Now, point source. Point source water pollution refers to contaminants that enter a waterway from a single identifiable source such as a pipe or a ditch. Examples of point sources include discharges from a sewage treatment plant, a factory, or a city storm drain. Non-point source. Non-point source pollution refers to diffuse contamination that does not originate from a single discrete source. Non-point source pollution is often the cumulative effect of small amounts of contaminants gathered from a large area. Examples include runoff of excess fertilizers, herbicides, and insecticides from agricultural lands and residential areas, oil, grease, and toxic chemicals from urban runoff, and energy production and sediment from improperly managed construction sites, crop and forest lands, and eroding stream banks. Now, groundwater pollution. 95% of all fresh water on earth is groundwater. Groundwater is found in natural rock formations. These formations called aquifers are a vital natural resource with many uses. Nationally, 53% of the population relies on groundwater as a source of drinking water. In rural areas, this figure is even higher. 81% of the community water is dependent on groundwater. Although the nation's groundwater quality is good to excellent, many local areas have experienced significant groundwater contamination. Some examples are leaking underground storage tanks and municipal landfills. Interactions between groundwater and surface water are complex. Consequently, groundwater pollution, sometimes referred to as groundwater contamination, is not as easily classified as surface water pollution. By its very nature, groundwater aquifers are susceptible to contamination from sources that may not directly affect surface water bodies, and the distinction of point versus non-point source may be irrelevant. A supple or ongoing release of chemical or radionuclide contaminants into soil may not create point source or non-point source pollution, but can contaminate the aquifer below, defined as a toxic plume. The movement of the plume, called a plume front, may be analyzed through a hydrological transport model or groundwater model. Analysis of groundwater contamination may focus on the soil characteristics and soil geology, hydrogeology, hydrology, and the nature of the contaminants. We will now study the causes of water pollution. The specific contaminants leading to pollution in water include industrial sewage, sewage from wastewater, mining activities, marine dumping, accidental oil leakage, burning of fossil fuels, chemical fertilizers and pesticides, leakage from sewer lines, global warming, radioactive waste, urban development, leakage from landfills, underground storage leakage, animal waste, organic as well as inorganic contaminants. Now we will discuss all these one by one. First of all, industrial waste. Industries produce huge amount of waste containing toxic chemicals and pollutants which can cause water pollution and damage to us and our environment. They contain pollutants such as lead, mercury, sulfur, asbestos, nitrates, and many other harmful chemicals. Many industries do not have proper waste management system and drain the waste in the fresh water which goes into rivers, canals, and later into sea. Sewage and wastewater. The sewage and wastewater produced by each household is chemically treated and released into sea with fresh water. The sewage water carries harmful bacteria and chemicals that can cause serious health problems. Pathogens are known as a common water pollutant. The sewers of cities harbor several pathogens and thereby diseases. Microorganisms in water are known to be causes of some very deadly diseases and become the breeding grounds for other creatures that act like carriers. These carriers inflict these diseases through various forms of contact onto an individual. A very common example of this is malaria. Now, mining activities. The elements when extracted in the raw form through mining contain harmful chemicals and can increase the amount of toxic elements when mixed up with water, which may result in health problems. Mining activities emit several metal waste and sulfides from the rocks and is harmful for the water. Marine dumping. The garbage produced by each household in the form of paper, aluminium, rubber, glass, plastic, etc. is collected and deposited into sea in some countries. These items take from 2 weeks to 200 years to decompose. When such items enter the sea, they not only cause water pollution but also harm animals in the sea. Accidental oil leakage. Oil spill pose a huge concern as large amount of oil enters into sea and does not dissolve with water, thereby opens problem for local marine wildlife such as fish, birds and sea otters. For example, a ship carrying large quantity of oil may spill oil if met with an accident and can cause varying damage to species in the ocean depending on the quantity of the oil spill, size of the ocean and the toxicity of the pollutant. Burning of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels like coal and oil, when burned, produce substantial amount of ash in the atmosphere. The particles contain toxic chemicals when mixed with water vapor result in acid rain. Also, carbon dioxide is released from burning of fossil fuels, which result in global warming. Chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Chemical fertilizers and pesticides are used by farmers to protect crops from insects and bacteria. They are useful for the plant growth. However, when these chemicals are mixed up with water, they prove harmful for plants and animals. Also, when it rains, the chemicals mix up with the rainwater and flow down into rivers and canals, which pose serious damage for the aquatic animals. Leakage from sewer lines. A small leakage from the sewer lines can contaminate the underground water and make it unfit for the people to drink. Also, when not repaired on time, the leaking water can come onto the surface and become a breeding ground for insects and mosquitoes. Global warming. An increase in the Earth's temperature due to the greenhouse effect results in global warming. It increases the water temperature and results in death of aquatic animals and marine species, which later results in water pollution. Radioactive waste. Nuclear energy is produced using nuclear fission or fusion. The element that is used in production of nuclear energy is uranium, which is highly toxic chemical. The nuclear waste that is produced by radioactive material needs to be disposed of to prevent any nuclear accident. Nuclear waste can have serious environmental hazards if not disposed of properly. Few major accidents have already taken place in Russia and Japan. Now, urban development. As population has grown, so has the demand for housing, food and cloth. As more cities and towns are developed, they have resulted in increased use of fertilizers to produce more food. Soil erosion due to deforestation, increase in construction activities, inadequate sewer collection and treatment, increase in chemicals from industries to produce more materials. Leakage from landfills. Landfills are nothing but huge pile of garbage that produces awful smell and can be seen across the city. When it rains, the landfills may leak, and the leaking landfills can pollute the underground water with large variety of contaminants. Animal waste. The waste produced by animals is washed away into rivers when it rains. It gets mixed up with other harmful chemicals and causes various waterborne diseases like cholera, diarrhea, jaundice, typhoid, etc. Underground storage leakage. Transportation of coal and other petroleum products through underground pipes is well known. Accidental leakage may happen anytime and may cause damage to environment and result in soil erosion and water pollution. Thermal pollution. Thermal pollution is the rise or fall in the temperature of a natural water body caused by human influence. Thermal pollution, unlike chemical pollution, results in a change in the physical properties of water. A common cause of thermal pollution is the use of water as a coolant by power plants and industrial manufacturers Elevated water temperature decreases oxygen levels, which can kill fish and can alter food chain composition, reduce species biodiversity, and foster invasion by new thermophilic species. Urban runoff may also elevate temperature in surface waters. Water pollutants also include both organic and inorganic factors. Organic factors include volatile organic compounds such as industrial solvents from improper storage, chlorinated solvents, polychlorinated biphenyls, trichloroethylene, perchlorate, various chemical compounds found in personal hygiene and cosmetic products, drug pollution involving pharmaceutical drugs and their metabolites, fuels, waste from trees and plants, detergents, disinfection byproducts, food processing wastes, insecticides and herbicides, a huge range of organohalides and other chemical compounds, petroleum hydrocarbons including fuels and lubricants and fuel combustion byproducts, volatile organic compounds, etc. Inorganic factors include ammonia from food processing waste, chemical waste as industrial byproducts, fertilizers containing nutrients, heavy metals from motor vehicles and acid mine drainage, silt in runoff from construction sites, chemical waste from factories, discarded cosmetics, etc. The water that travels through fields is usually contaminated with all forms of waste inclusive of fertilizers that it swept along the way. This infected water makes its way to our water bodies and sometimes to the seas, endangering the flora, fauna and humans that use it along its path. Now we will study the effects of water pollution. The effects of water pollution are not only devastating to the people but also to animals, fish and birds. Polluted water is unsuitable for drinking, recreation, agriculture and industry. It diminishes the aesthetic quality of lakes and rivers. More seriously, contaminated water destroys aquatic life and reduces its reproductive ability. The effects of water pollution are varied and depend on what chemicals are dumped and in which locations. Many water bodies near urban areas are highly polluted. This is the result of both garbage dumped by individuals and dangerous chemicals legally or illegally dumped by manufacturing industries, health centers and marketplaces. The various effects of water pollution include death of aquatic animals. The main problem caused by water pollution is that it kills life that depends on these water bodies. Oil spills in the water causes animals to die when they ingest it or encounter it. Oil does not dissolve in water, so it causes suffocation in fish and birds. Disruption of food chains. Water pollution disrupts the natural food chain as well. Pollutants such as lead and cadmium are eaten by tiny animals. Later these animals are consumed by fish and shellfish and the food chain continues to be disrupted at all higher levels. Diseases. Eventually, humans are affected by this process as well. People can get diseases such as hepatitis by eating seafood that has been poisoned. In many poor nations, there is always outbreak of cholera and diseases as a result of poor drinking water treatment from contaminated waters. Although the vast majority of bacteria are harmless or beneficial, a few pathogenic bacteria can cause infectious diseases. Destruction of ecosystems. Ecosystems can be severely changed or destroyed by water pollution. Ecosystems are destroyed by the rising temperature in water as coral reefs are affected by the bleaching effect due to warmer temperatures. Additionally, the warm water forces indigenous water species to seek cooler water in other areas, causing an ecological damaging shift of the affected area. Sewage, fertilizer and agricultural runoff contain organic materials that, when discharged into waters, increase the growth of algae, which causes the depletion of oxygen. The low oxygen levels are not able to support most indigenous organisms in the area and therefore upset the natural ecological balance in rivers and lakes. Water pollution causes flooding due to the accumulation of solid waste and soil erosion in streams and rivers. So far, we studied water pollution, its causes and effects in part first. With this, we conclude part first of water pollution. Hope you have understood it. Thank you.